Greetings, YouTube. This is the True Bearer One speaking. Now, I want to talk about this so-called gender war between black men and black women. A lot of people would say there is a gender war in the black community, and I mostly hear this term from black women, which is funny. Whenever I hear black women use the term, it's usually when they are acting like they care about the relations between black men and black women. I see this on internet message boards, blogs, YouTube, etc. And whenever black women address the topic, they usually address it from a one-sided perspective, as if black women are the only ones taking hits. It's funny to me because they conveniently leave out the fact that black women are the ones who contribute the most to this gender war. And in fact, black women were really the ones who started this war in the first place. Now, black women want to act all brand new to this fact. But history clearly tells us who instigated this so-called gender war. Most guys would trace the origin of this gender war back to about 40 years ago or so. But I would argue that the rift between black men and women is much older than that. I would go as far to say this gender war dates back to the late 1800s, actually. I read some things that suggest that even back then, black women were making their disappointment with black men known. It was just a lot more subtle in those days. But even then, there were signs of a collective lack of respect for black men because of their position in society. This lack of respect turned into an all-out gender war. Then, about 40 years ago, this gender war had gotten like 100 times worse. Well, what happened 40 years ago? Glad you asked. The advent of radical feminism happened, particularly black feminism. See, the core belief of black feminism is basically that black men are the root of all evil in the universe, and that black men have a natural predisposition to be woman beaters, rapists, child molesters, cheaters, etc., etc. The list goes on. Just insert any negative category at will, and black men will be the first on that list. And you can see this theme constantly played out in virtually all of black women's media. Her literature, her music, her films, her academia, her spirituality, or rather her perversion of spirituality. If it's by a black woman, then there's a high chance that black men are portrayed as the bad guys. It is essential to the black woman's psyche that she sees herself as a victim of black men, whether it is on a personal or societal level. This feeling of being done wrong by black men is a major part of a black woman's identity. It's almost a rite of passage among black women to have had a negative experience with black men. Oh, and notice, I may switch back and forth saying black women and black feminists in my videos, and that's because both terms are pretty much interchangeable. The average black woman is a feminist, whether or not she calls herself one. Many black women don't like to use the word feminist, even though it describes them. Most of them, they prefer to call themselves something else, like strong, independent woman, or some variation of that. But it all adds up to the same thing. It's just a matter of semantics. Anyway, like I was saying, for the past 40 years, black women have been using every major media outlet to propagate their black men ain't shit religion, which is why I find it really incredulous when black women straight up ignore this fact. Black women had every single platform to bash black men, and they have took full advantage of each one without a second thought. And here's the thing, when black women realized that non-black people were listening to their complaints about black men, they kicked up their attacks by 100 times fold. The fact that they now had a non-black audience made black women want to attack black men that much more. Compare it to this scenario. A guy and his girlfriend are out in a public place arguing. The guy tells the girl to keep it down, but the girl just gets louder. As she gets louder, she notices that more people around them is starting to look. This audience encourages her to get even louder and bolder, because now she wants to put on a show. She acts more aggressive and just goes off and smacks her boyfriend in the face in front of everybody. The reaction she gets from all the people watching her pumps her up and makes her feel invincible. Because now she's performing for the crowd and she wants to embarrass her boyfriend in front of everybody. It's the same thing with black women. When black women noticed that other groups were paying attention to them bashing black men, they took it to a whole nother level. Black women made it their mission to humiliate and emasculate black men for the whole world to see. They boldly display their disrespect for us. They boast about how we are allegedly intimidated by their success. They stand up and proclaim how useless we are, and so they don't even need us anyway. But the thing that really makes it bad is that black women know that black men have been humiliated and emasculated ever since we came to this country. They knew how the black man's image had been systematically maligned and berated and degraded. And they don't give a shit. They do not give a shit. They're perfectly happy with adding to the humiliation of black men. They want to finish the job that white men started. And I get frustrated as hell when black women want to act like they don't know any of this. Like they never see or hear the shit that black women say about black men. Unfucking believable. And you got all these black women coming on YouTube pulling this whole innocent routine. Talking about, why is everyone picking on black women? As if black women have been these loyal, faithful servants whose masters have all of a sudden turned against them. And I just be looking at them like, are you serious? I can't believe this shit. Then, when they see black men finally pointing out black women's faults, they call it black woman bashing. They call you a black woman basher. They accuse you of hating black women. They accuse you of having issues with women. They have all this shit to say about black men who simply hold black women accountable for their bad decisions. But they don't have any words for black women who hate black men. And I do use the word hate, because a lot of the crap that black women get away with saying about black men is far worse than what brothers on YouTube be saying. Far more terrible. But they can't see that. You know why? Black women were never made to feel responsible for their bad choices. Conventional wisdom always dictated that everything wrong in a black woman's life is the black man's fault. Any trouble a black woman experiences is because black men did something wrong to her or didn't do something right for her. Conventional wisdom teaches that any and everything wrong with the black community is black men's fault. while everything good in the black community is black women's doing. See, black women never had to face criticism because she always had the luxury of using black men as a scapegoat. And to be honest, a lot of this is black men's fault too. Because black men let black women get away with this shit for too long. Historically speaking, black men never held black women accountable for their part in these problems. For the most part, black men were willing to take the fall for everything in the community, even the black woman's part. We let them slide for far too long, and in return for our kindness, we now have to deal with all this shit. That's why when black men express legitimate criticisms of black women, they are automatically accused of bashing black women. Personal criticism is a foreign concept to black women. They don't have any pre-existing knowledge of constructive criticism. So whenever they encounter it, they just dismiss it as hatred. It doesn't match up with anything in their prior database. I once saw this video by a black female who was saying something along the lines that black men shouldn't criticize black women. They should uplift black women. Man, fuck all that bullshit. That's the problem right there. Black women don't want to be criticized for anything. They just want to be uplifted all the time. Sorry, but black women have been uplifted enough as far as I'm concerned. They've been uplifted above reproach. They've been uplifted above accountability. They've been uplifted above personal responsibility. In my opinion, what black women need is to be brought back down to earth. For years, black women have had every single avenue of media to bash black men. So yes, there is a gender war. And guess what? Black women started it. Hell, you can't even call it a gender war because it's more like a gender massacre. Because most of the attacks were coming from black women and they had all the media behind them. And it's still like that today. It's still one-sided. The only place in the world where black women are actually held accountable for anything is on the internet. YouTube in particular. That's the only place where black women are held responsible for anything. And that's why there have been more and more brothers within the past 5 years or so making videos about these issues. Because black men are just reacting. We are reacting to all the waves of anti-black male propaganda. And now that black men are finally reacting, black women want to cry about black women now want to cry about a gender war. Now, black women want to talk about peace with black men. Now they want to work together. They sure as hell weren't bothered by this gender war when black women were the only ones talking. They didn't care about black unity when they were the ones criticizing, analyzing, scrutinizing, demonizing, antagonizing, and villainizing black men. Not a problem at all. They get just a little taste of their own medicine, and now they want to cry victim. See, black women don't care about this gender war because they actually care about repairing the relations between black men and black women. No, they just don't want to look bad. They just don't want their dirty laundry aired out. No problem with us. They just don't want themselves to look bad. Well, black women, you open Pandora's box. Now deal with it. This has been another public service announcement by the Truth Bearer One. Peace.